You know, like Team Flakers have been doing things that have worked very well, so they should probably keep doing those things. I know it is certainly a an interesting concept, you know, highbrow and the such, but no, it makes perfect sense to me. It makes perfect sense to Team Flakers because that's what they've been doing. Hell, it's been successful the whole time, and well, Team Vulpin now on the attack here, starting us out, looking towards C long. And Valu's the first to take shots, but elects to fall back after missing.
Yeah, the way they're already going ahead and just trying to flood this side a little bit. I mean, getting that first pick, run with that. This is the stage of the game. We see Floaty getting a double right now, having the aggression being pushed here from the flank from Spartan, and that will actually be closed out. But, I mean, Vulpin, look at this top right now. Flakers, they do not have a full health agent right now, and this was what you need to ride out as they do so well in these pistol rounds.
Well, we saw it happen in the first half pistol round on Ascent. Team Vulpin coming out to a massively successful start. And Balu's, like you said, no, not at all towards that full health marker. Deny going to be able to grab the victory in that one. And well, it's definitely a great situation. And I was going to say, I thought that that was weird. I think we've got our overlay a bit backwards here, because we got Team Vulpin on the left and Team Flakers on the right. I've been debated.
But I mean, speaking of really, I mean, being debated, look at these buys right now. Deny just absolutely BMing, it looks like, and doing exactly what we said, finding that lead and running with it, as he did such a great job in the last map. That he needs to go ahead and get the larger advantage to play with, and having those heals to get him 150, he's going to play into that just by a large margin.
Yeah, a situation where this is interesting. A shooting gallery over there in I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that engagement happen in that position.
No.
You know what I mean? Like that many players in that spot. But it happened, and Baluz is the sole survivor of that tragedy. Is got rid of oh no. Goodbye.
What?
Poor Baluz.
What? Just actually, I mean, I've never seen that before, and especially for the likes of Flakers, excuse me. I mean, Vulpin to be the ones to do that. I mean, what was really going on here? Obviously, we said, I mean, or no, not Vulpin. Like I said, I'm kind of with you. That whole overlay thing really got me tripped up. But I mean, for Flakers, for Flakers to be making that kind of shove into the side, to just really be shoving it out, kind of like that, just running off that ego and just everything being played out. I mean, what was the thought process, and why are they just now switching it back to being orthodox?
I mean, it's one of those plays that you try as a Hail Mary and you're on an eco, so what the hell?
Yeah.
That's the idea for Vulpin, but Team Flakers, they just kind of read it like a book, absolutely outplaying them. And yeah, it was simply a massacre inside that small little area. But this is now, as Team Flakers are down one player already. That was Baluz who actually found the opening pick. Kaloon, he's going very, very low, gets teleported out at the very correct time, though eventually does get traded. Hoshi coming in big for Team Vulpin, but Floaty's on a bit of a flank, and Hoshi finds a shock dart kill of all things on the low HP player that was that Omen, and this is now a two-player advantage rather, but Floaty's in such a prime position. He finds one. If he can find even more, this is just absolutely devastating.
Yeah, and especially knowing that he's going to be there on that side, he's just kind of really playing it out. You know that Heaven's going to be possibly the option for one of these guys, so that's definitely something to keep your eye on, as Baluz is the one heading up top. But also, the way everything's kind of panning out, not really favorable overall. I mean, you have the setup, you have the nades placed, you have the ideas, you have those hunches to play with, but it's just not really enough, as Vulpin actually gets himself something on the board.
Yeah, and it all started with that opening pick from Value, and you know, you got to get the man advantage, and they not only got the man advantage, but stuck with it the rest of the round and into the good positioning there on the retake, as they're able to trade things out. In fact, winning a couple of key gunfights in addition to that. So, as we see it, it's going to be one round here for Team Vulpid, but Team Flakers, they still got some cash in the bank. They are not entirely broke just yet.
And it's definitely helpful, though, that a lot of those guys were still standing at the end of that round. You had 3 of their players. I mean, this is probably the best situation they're going to be sitting in all game if we're using this last map as reference. I mean, but as you said, this map. It's a completely different story. It's a completely different outlay. It's just everything can totally turn tides. And I feel like with this Killjoy ult coming down, providing a little bit of pressure for these guys, it could go ahead and be the start of something to really shut it out.
Planted.
Well, it was a lockdown that causes the evacuation of the site by Team Vulpin. Now they look to retake 5-on-5. The God tier arrow goes through. Unfortunately, gets destroyed immediately. Deny traded out by Spartan. And now taking shots at Eshwan here in the back is Hope Magical. So they know where at least one of these players are. The retakers looking good. Spartan connects with another. And Valu's to frag as well. Charisma finds one, but that's all here for the offense. And he's just taking pot shots through that cloud burst as the defuse comes through. Has to try and reposition, but Eshwan is in perfect places to deny that push. And it's 3 players surviving once again for Team Vulpid in a second round on the board.
And this is a rifle win, too, keep in mind. This is not a pistol round like we've typically seen. This is rifles. This is a completely different matchup. This is where we usually see Flakers having no bars held back. And especially on a map where they just went undefeated. I mean, this is showing that we could actually have a game on our hands, a map, excuse me, and the way this could pan out. As long as we have some guys really stepping in, because when you look at this scoreboard and the way things are really panning out, it looks like a 4v4 because Hope and Kalyun are not exactly feeling themselves this time around.
No, they're not. At least not yet. It's still quite early days. I mean, we got to keep that in mind. A nice dart spots out 2 players there for Team Vulpid. That means that they know their commitment towards C is very heavy. So you can see rotations already coming through. The lack of a cipher to not to hold it down over towards A or towards C means that the rotations have to be a little bit more on point. It's actually a bit of a fake with those rotations. All 5 players still at this C side, or rather like C/B side of the map. The only person could cheat over towards A is that Killjoy who has the utility down.
I mean, that will be enough of a tale, but as right now, it doesn't seem like it's going to be saying anything because, I mean, this whole kind of allocation towards mid, this absolute dominance of presence there, it just shows that that's exactly what Flakers want. They want to find this aggressiveness. They want to find these ways to push on these sites, and with Charisma getting absolutely locked out here in the start, that's not going to be the best entry.
No, flash and dash goes wide. It's Deny who tries to come up big with the Guardian, but Baluz denies him any sort of residence onto the B site. It's Vulpid not only taking those shots, but they're taking names. They're taking rounds, and they're fragging out.
I mean, it leaves you the question to be answered is, you know, is Flakers, is gas running out of their tank, or is Vulpid just speeding up here? They put themselves in 6th gear because, I mean, looking at the way everything's lying out, it seems like a little combination of both as they're finally meeting themselves in the middle because, I mean, we're seeing it back and forth in terms of roundage here. I mean, it is still early, but I feel like we're going to notice a pattern here unless Belush just absolutely goes off with this op.
Well, I mean, I hate to put too fine a point on it here, but Team Vulpid are hitting shots. They kind of weren't over in map number 1 as a whole. And they're winning opening tools. They're you know, peaking with confidence. And again, that's not something we were seeing before. Nice. Again, that's a confidence swing that I'm talking about from Kalyun, who just, you know, takes that against Deny, who had a phenomenal showing there in the prior map. And, you know, maybe last time out, that would have been a very different look, as now the man disadvantaged Team Flakers are back to the drawing board as they look to maybe eke their way towards A with 2 of these players and the spike going that direction.
There will be a little bit of a tail there. You had that KJ turret set up. You had the ultimate, or not the ultimate, excuse me, the Omen kind of seeking that out with his ultimate. And the way everything's panning out right now, Kalyun grabbing his second kill of the match on both of the top frags from the last map. So that's definitely going to be a little bit of a confidence booster if you're sitting in the shoes of that Omen, especially when you're trying to hold out this side.
Nice job from Spartan. The lockdown not even necessary in the end of days as Team Flakers all fall. And Kalyun finding that kill on Charisma is so impactful because that was the player who could have kind of been on the flank, right? Who could have potentially been the thorn in the side of Team Vulpin. Now, ultimately, Charisma wasn't actually going for the flank, but it's the threat of that flank that could have been a devastating factor for Team Vulpin. Kalyun finds that player, denies that potential, and then it's an easy player retake from there with the advantage.
Yeah, all it really just dwindles down to is getting rid of that other variable. Getting one less man off the field, having one less real kind of vicinity in the map to worry about, to stress with. And I mean, Kalyun being that man, as we can see, I mean, having 3-4 now, as he was sitting at 0-4 recently. I mean, this guy's ego absolutely just skyrocketed over the course of 2 rounds.
Well, it's not ego when it's the correct thing, and Hoshi, Eshwan both finding frags despite the onslaught of weaponry as Charisma recovering an operator is trying for more. Unfortunately, the Lear is going to deny him. It's a trade for Hoshi, but it's triple kill on Hoshi for that one. And it was, I mean, an eco round, yes, but a deadly one for Team Flakers as they got 3 kills out of it.
Yeah, and just the way everything's going to be played out right now from the likes of Flakers, we're seeing a much different game just generally. Obviously, it's a different map. It's a different team that they're facing now because, I mean, the way Vulpin's playing, it's completely kind of polar opposite from what they had going for them earlier. But we're just not seeing enough real smokes, util, enough real kind of chaos being brought to the field. Because when you look at Ascent, when you look at those plants that were going down, they were very quick. They were very kind of flawless feeling and just kind of set completely up and methodical. And this may be that round where they bring that kind of flow back because they haven't really brought this aggression just yet, as Chris is going to follow through with it.
A big mistake there from Balus taking that shot when they didn't really have to. And the follow-up from Charisma is solid. Dizio is playing disgustingly by sitting inside of spawn, waiting for any players to get curious. And now there's only 2 players left alive for the retake. Hunter's Fury available for either side, but tagged is Hoshi through the sidewall, and fragged is Hoshi up in heaven, and Floaty continuing onto the opposing Killjoy as well.
And this right here, as like I was mentioning earlier, this is the team Flaker we saw earlier. This is them shoving a site collectively, finding different avenues onto it, having a guy in a really weird spot, having that wild card placed around the map somewhere different that's going to find that individual pick. This is the team Flakers we saw earlier compared to that passive team who's playing it very slow, couldn't decide where to go, and even if they did know where to go, they took it very slowly rather than just, you know, believing in themselves and just falling through that last round. I see right here with this Sobadrome coming out, if they can shove this right now, they're going to throw it.
Yeah, well, the Hunter's Fury does indeed deny Eshwan space as Charisma takes the frag ultimately, but it was the Hunter's Fury that created that opportunity. And everybody else electing to run away. I love this play as it does indeed leave the defense wondering, scratching their head, like, what the heck is happening? It looks like it's all a bit of a ruse. Is this going to be re-aggression there towards C? Don't know if it's going to work out as there's 3 players kind of sitting in garage, but still.
Yeah, just the way this is panning out. I mean, you got Charisma right here being that little wild card, being that jack of trades. And it really leaves the question, especially with these KJ setups over here on mid, as you can see the util being allocated there. I mean, I feel like going right back to the C, not getting that plant earlier, is going to just kind of let these guys, especially Vulpin, find themselves in a favorable situation.
Well, right now it's not so favorable. Floaty on the flank is flanked outrageous.
Oh,
triple kill for Floaty, and well, the flanker gets flanked himself by Deny, who is kind of waiting late in mid. But I'll be honest, I think it's the opposite. I'm on the opposite side of you on this one.
okay.
That hold was perfect because they waited just long enough for Team Volpit to rethink their strategy. And they obviously didn't want to invest enough resources to retake that site without a drone or something, and so they just kind of left it alone, and then they rotated towards A, and that was when the rest of Team Flakers kind of walked in for free. So they actually perfected that timing over towards C, and it was basically the best you could have hoped for.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll give it to you. I mean, the way it just kind of dwindled down to what it really kind of on a baseline, how everything played out, it was a lot of mind games going on. That's definitely something that's really kind of underplayed in this game because obviously aim is king when it comes to stuff. And this is the kind of league where you have to go ahead and throw in that mental attribute, find those ways to get into their heads and, get a little bit of free open air to play with. And at this stage of the game, Lakers, I mean, I got to agree with you on that. They're much better when it comes around to doing that. And I see them finally finding their flow once again and kind of transitioning that from Ascent over to Haven now.
Looks as if playing around with the idea of using the lockdown over towards A, but ultimately the pit comes towards C. So that's going to be the side of choice. And there is 2 players already down for Team Volpit as the Flakers get the plant down. Gallion inside of that dark cover, trying to look for some more. The shock dart doing a little bit of damage, and that sonar gives away the information that at least 2 players are sitting over long. But it's actually the vast majority of these players who are sitting over it long. Deny before that dark cover goes down already gets 1, and Dezio closes the round with 2 more of his own, a triple to to put the cherry on top rather, and Team Flakers are right back into this thing.
Yeah, they're most definitely finding their flow again as we see Deny giving us a little tune right there, singing his way up. I mean, because the way they're just once again finding themselves into situations where they can really just kind of play into their advantage. I mean, we saw them kind of playing a lot more slow. We saw them being a little bit more scatterbrained when it came around to figuring out who exactly to kind of play these picks off of, what side to really kind of invest in. And I mean, now in this stage of the game, they're just confident about where to go. Make sure to find that pick. So whatever ideas they have in their head, they can make sure it becomes a reality.
Indeed. I like that alarm bot there, put down by Team Flakers. They don't want to allow for Volpit to get too aggressive, not without them knowing what's going on. As I say that, the alarm bot is returned to them as the push towards C is in. But once again, the site's wide open. They've somehow done a magical job of Team Flakers of pulling rotations just far enough, and it's kind of the issue with you don't have a cipher, isn't it?
Yeah, that Killjoy is definitely, that little weakness is definitely shining right now. And it's not exactly going to be enough. I mean, obviously, it's great for these post-plant situations, but when you're right there on defense, you had the likes of Flakers being the ones who are shoving up on you. It's not exactly going to be too great as we see them just absolutely capitalizing on themselves right now.
3v3 now. Empress has been popped, and well, that increased fire rate not doing well enough for Eshwan, as it's now Volpid left in that 1v3. Still, with that Empress, possible, doable. Taking the first, gonna use the dismiss, get the overheal as well with the Empress. Now you gotta look to defuse, but that spike has been ticking for far too long. Tapping once more, has to hit the shot, but misses its mark, and Eshwan, despite the heroic attempts, falls. And this is 6 for Team Flakers.
And just the way that really played out for that retake. I mean, the way that Flakers just absolutely played operation there. I mean, you saw Volpid, they were making shoves, they were making attempts, everybody had their own role in that retake, but it just seemed like once you get one man to fall apart, they're not universally, kind of gifted in every single role to find themselves into an easy retake. I mean, we saw right there, Eshwan was the one kind of creating that distraction, and then meanwhile, you had Dezio just kind of getting the picked off from the side. How you making a push towards the back and trying to find something different. It was just, everybody had something, and once that direct line fell apart, everything just kind of snapped.
Yeah, it's almost as if there was one small moment, and that was exactly what the turning point was. Deny, he finds that first, tagged through onto Hoshi, but re-aggression for Baluz does net a kill, though it's not the equalizer that he was hoping for. Gonna have to contend with a owl drone in return, but Spartan has gotten a very forward position. He's going to get all this information. He knows that the rotation's coming in, can find a good timing, and Valor, speaking of timing, has found one of his own. Now it's all on 2-on-2, one for Dezio, and now a second. Nicely done. Wow, that is also close, but Team Flakers take it 7-5.
An interesting end right there, especially Volpa to kind of switch the gears, find themselves being very offensive when it comes around to being on defense, and especially not working on that second round we saw, and then to just kind of follow through with it is, I gotta say, not probably the best call going into this halftime. I mean, they are now down to the much better kind of situation to be sitting in compared to the last map. But I mean, it's not enough for you to really throw away when you know exactly who you're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's half the number of rounds they walked, or rather, yeah, half the number of rounds that they gave away last time at half, which is certainly a step in the right direction. But like you say, you can't forget that this is Team Flakers, who just gave you the 13-4 smackdown over on Ascent. You gotta keep it real. As we see alarm bot going out there for Vulpid. They look to do the garage push, and the push is there. See where they head. Maybe towards B, or rather C. Paranoia comes through. That's a bit aggressive for Spartan. Nice find by Kalyun, but it's quickly traded. Meaning Floaty is now left to try and find something, but, well, Deny might be the one to do it.
And this is where we saw them excel last time. Flakers retake just being absolutely just chef's kiss, man. Just mwah. So maybe this is where we see them once again find their flow, especially with this 7-point, you know, on the board. And Deny just absolutely going off in this introduction for a half. I feel like this is exactly where Flakers saying, we're home, baby. So let's send it home.
Man, Arena is just so broken on pistol rounds. It's just ridiculous. I mean, Deny, I don't know. I wish I could look at the stats at how much damage Deny took over the course of that round. But with the fact, that he had 2, overkills, like, it was so much damage. It was ridiculous. I'm fairly confident. And, it's just going to show you the reason that you play Reyna sometimes, even if it's not the best character when it comes down to their utility, it is certainly ideal when it comes down to chaining the frags together. Just one ult orb away from a potential Empress, and actually that's going to be netted already if I'm not mistaken, as they head towards A. Actually, no, not going to grab that ult orb. It's going to be the push towards B. Vulpid looking to try and catch Flakers off guard, as it is.
Yeah, and we see a little bit of an attempt here from the likes of, Flakers, and once again just spotlighting how well of retakes they have across the board. And Vulpid to go ahead and opt for that B side to put themselves in the most open stage. It just allows such easy picks for these guys on Team Flaker to really just put an end to them.
Man, a valiant effort there for Vulpid, but not to be. Not to be. 5-9 the score, and a timeout being called.
There we go.
This is certainly a good timeout call, I think.
Yeah. I completely agree. I mean, this is the game that they're used to playing. Flakers, we saw them earlier, like I said. They're so clean with these retakes. And B, I don't feel like in that shoes, as much as I hate to say it, you can't go for B side if you're Team Vulpin. You cannot go for that side at all because of how open it is, how many avenues you have, how many different kind of entries that, Flakers can play with. That alone is just super, super detrimental to these guys, especially when every single one of these players have their own individual capabilities and they all are just super universal and can fill each other's shoes.
It's a tough site to defend. That's certainly the case. I wouldn't go so far to say you shouldn't go there necessarily, but you look at the data, and you're saying exactly what I would say is that, by the data, these guys are really good. Flakers are at the retakes, and that's a site that you're forced to play retake on, or rather just play far back from the site, allow for the retake to come back in. And so now as we are unpaused, Team Vulpin hopefully are going to have a potential plan in place for what is right now going to be a bonus round for Team Flakers. They definitely are going to want to deny the SMGs.
Cover going out.
Yeah, we see those all over the place, especially with these rifles now being whipped out. And the first ones to really bite onto it is going to be these guys for Vulpix. So, I mean, this is going to be something, seeing that we now have Blakers kind of on a bonus, but it doesn't really matter to the likes of Floaty as he finds himself that first pick. And a second to go with it.
Give it more as Calyun somehow finds a nice position. But again, Dizio, 2 for 1. These are not good odds if you take it 2 for 1's trades. Team Vulpix, you gotta do better. And it's Eshwan who's left alone. 1v3. He's going to be able to recover that spike, but that's not going to be met with anything but resistance and charisma for Rags in order to push Team Flakers up over the edge and out of that bonus round into victory.
Yeah, and having 3 men alive still, they're just kind of slowly itching themselves back towards where they were in this last game, in that last map. Just kind of sitting comfortably on Econ, finding themselves a lot of, room. Look at the likes of Deny. This man has a full rifle, full armor, with 4,700 creds, and the rest of his team isn't exactly too shy of them. They definitely have armor. They have util buys. They just have to make sure to have enough of those rifles. And going forward, Vulpix, they're kind of scrapping together what they can with all these sheriffs.
Scrapping is right. This is certainly not ideal. Charisma. Oh, he's lined him up. 2 for 1. And that's Floaty and Hope Magical as well getting involved. Blues has 1 kill, and that's the only kill that Team Vulpix are gonna find.
Oh, these rounds, man, they're getting quicker and quicker. It's scary.
We're getting to a point where it's just looking like, Ascent, but late. Right? Like you say, quicker and quicker. Again, that's an anti-eco round, but man, missed shot there from Eshwan is brutal, isn't it?
Yeah. Just the different kind of flanks they took right there, just kind of utilizing that whole A side, that little ring around the Rosie and just finding those picks, especially when Deny had such a clean entry right there, finding that double. You can't question finding himself there and just now going into the ego peak with the ops and winning every single shot, it looks like. Oh my God, Deny.
Swing frag. Swing frag. And that's what Team Flakers are doing. Oh, man.
Match point.
This looked like it was going to be a lot closer.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we're looking at down the barrel of a 12-5 scoreline. What that means is that there's only 1 round difference currently between last game and this game.
Yeah, and things tell me that I feel like it's Flakers retaking just their defense. Obviously, the way they started it out on defense last time around, and now it's the second half where they're really into it. And this is where we see them just running away with the game. It's not just how weird and how aggressive their defensive plays are, but just how damn clean their retakes are.
Well, it's definitely a multifaceted idea, right? Their aggression on defense is it's unstoppable right now. As I say that, though, Spartan does find a kill, which is certainly a nice find. But the thing is that Spartan found that kill because they actually were in a position that there was just no trade available. And that's what tends not to happen all too often. And great patience from Deny, despite the dart to come through. Just waited long enough and now reaggresses, dismisses away, finds everything necessary, and puts the team on their back.
Yeah, just the way that you usually have oppers played out. Look at that. Not only you have an unorthodox Reyna opping, but she's not opping kind of back as you would see a Jet or something. Deny is using it like a rifle and shoving into everybody, as Charisma is going to do the exact same to close out the game.